Donald Trump thought he could march back onto Jimmy Kimmel Live, flash that arrogant smirk, and steamroll his way through another interview like he owned the stage. But what happened next was pure chaos and total humiliation. Jimmy Kimmel dropped one devastating bombshell after another, watching Trump's smug face crack wide open in real time as his own lies and desperate defenses exploded right back in his face. From wild finger-pointing screams to a full-blown meltdown where he kicked his chair and stormed off like a raging child, Trump's epic collapse became one of the most savage, jaw-dropping takedowns in late-night history. The news hit like a bomb. Donald Trump, the sitting president in 2025, was coming back to Jimmy Kimmel Live. People couldn't believe it. The last time he sat on that couch, the interview blew up when Jimmy started asking tough questions about his family. Trump got pissed, stood up, and walked right off the stage in the middle of the show. That clip had been playing on repeat for months. Now here he was, agreeing to return. Social media went crazy. Some said he wanted to settle the score. Others figured he was coming back to control the story on his own terms. Either way, everyone knew one thing. This wasn't going to be a normal late-night interview. By the time the night arrived, the studio felt electric. The audience filed in, talking in low voices, eyes darting around like they were waiting for a fight to break out. Crew members moved fast, adjusting lights and checking cameras, but even they kept glancing toward the stage. The air was thick with that weird mix of excitement and nerves. Then the moment came. Trump walked out from backstage wearing his signature dark suit, red tie perfectly in place. He flashed that big, confident smile and waved to the crowd like he owned the room. But if you looked closer, his eyes were sharper than usual, focused, almost daring anyone to test him. The audience clapped, but it wasn't the easy, relaxed kind of applause. It carried tension. Jimmy Kimmel stood up from his desk with his usual calm grin. He shook Trump's hand firmly and motioned for him to sit down. "Mr. President, welcome back," Jimmy said, his voice warm, but with a little edge underneath. "It's been a while." Trump settled into the chair, leaning back like he was completely at ease. For the first few seconds, everything looked normal. Then Trump jumped right in, not even waiting for the first real question. "You know, Jimmy," he said with a small smirk, "last time I was here, you hit me with some pretty tough family questions. A lot of people remember that. I remember it too. But I'm back now, and this time I'm ready. No walking out. We're going to talk straight." The audience reacted with a mix of nervous laughs and murmurs. It was a direct challenge thrown down in the opening minute. Jimmy didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly, that same calm smile still on his face. But his eyes told a different story. He wasn't here to play nice or let Trump steer the whole conversation. Then Jimmy shifted gears, smooth as hell. He waited for a natural pause, smiled, and asked in a friendly tone, "So, Mr. President, how's the family doing these days? Melania, Ivanka, and little Barron, they must be proud of everything you've accomplished." It sounded innocent enough, the kind of question people ask all the time. But everyone in the studio knew what Jimmy was really doing. He was sliding straight toward the old rumors that had been floating around for years. The whispers about Barron's parentage. The questions about how close the family really was. Jimmy kept his voice light, but his eyes stayed locked on Trump, waiting to see how he'd react. Trump's smile didn't disappear right away, but it tightened. He sat up straighter in the chair. "The family is doing great, Jimmy. Fantastic. Melania is an incredible mother. Barron is a strong, smart kid. Ivanka's doing tremendous work. Everything is perfect." He started talking faster, the words coming out in that rapid-fire style he's known for. He listed dates and events like he was reading from a script. "Remember that trip to Mar-a-Lago in July? We were all there together. Christmas at the White House, pictures everywhere. Barron's birthday party last year, the whole family showed up. Normal family stuff. Nothing weird. Nothing hidden. The more he spoke, the more details he threw in: school events, vacations, holiday dinners. He painted picture after picture to prove everything was normal. Then, without missing a beat, Trump reached down beside his chair and pulled out a thick folder. He slapped it on the desk between them with a loud smack. See this? I came prepared. Real documents, real photos, real timelines. Not the fake stuff the media pushes. He flipped the folder open and pointed at the papers inside. Suddenly his voice got louder and sharper. He looked straight at Jimmy and jabbed his finger toward him. I have the real facts right here. Everything is normal. Melania is Barron's mother. Period. Anyone saying different is lying, and I'm not going to sit here and let those lies go unanswered. The audience went quiet for a second, then broke into scattered applause mixed with nervous murmurs. Trump's face had changed. The easy smile was gone, replaced by that intense, defensive stare. He was no longer just talking. He was fighting. Jimmy stayed calm, nodding slowly like he was just listening to an old friend, but the tension in the studio had jumped up a notch. Trump kept going, but the easy confidence from a minute ago was starting to crack. He leaned forward and dove deeper into the same stories, repeating them over and over like he needed to hammer the point home. Like I said, that July trip to Mar-a-Lago, we were all there. Melania, Barron, Ivanka, the whole family. Normal stuff. Then Christmas at the White House, everybody together. Barron's birthday, pictures all over the place. Everything normal. Completely normal. He said it again, faster this time, adding more dates and little details that nobody asked for. His voice got quicker and sharper, the words tumbling out one after another. The audience could hear the shift. What started as proud stories now sounded like he was trying way too hard to convince everyone. He circled back to the same vacation twice, then mentioned the birthday party a third time, throwing in extra names and exact times like it would make the story bulletproof. The more he talked, the messier it got. Sentences ran into each other. He repeated normal family at least 4 times in one breath. People in the front row started shifting in their seats. What was supposed to clear things up was actually making it harder to follow. Trump didn't seem to notice. He just kept pushing, his hands cutting through the air as he spoke. Jimmy sat there quietly, nodding along like he was really listening. He didn't interrupt. He just let Trump keep rolling. Then, right in the middle of another repeat about the Christmas dinner, Jimmy leaned forward a little and said in a calm, even voice, "Mr. President, I want to make sure I have this right. You mentioned the Mar-a-Lago trip in July, but the photos and records from that month show Melania was actually in New York for most of it. Can you help me understand that part?" The studio went dead silent. Jimmy hadn't raised his voice or attacked. He just pointed out a small crack in the timeline Trump had been repeating. It was a simple question, but it landed like a punch. Trump stopped mid-sentence. His face changed instantly. The confident flow disappeared, replaced by clear irritation. His eyes narrowed and his jaw tightened. "You're wrong, Jimmy. Totally wrong." Trump shot back, his voice jumping up louder than before. He slapped his hand lightly on the desk. Not quite a slam, but loud enough for the microphones to pick it up. "I know exactly what happened. I was there." He started to push himself up from the chair, like he was about to stand, his body tense and ready to explode. Then he caught himself and dropped back down hard, breathing heavier. The audience held their breath. No one moved. You could almost hear the tension crackling in the room. This was the first real crack in Trump's armor, the moment his cool started to slip and raw frustration broke through. Jimmy stayed perfectly calm, watching him without saying another word right away. Trump glared across the desk, chest rising and falling faster now. The tension in the studio was already thick. Then Jimmy leaned forward slightly, his voice staying calm and steady, like he was talking about the weather. He looked Trump right in the eyes and said, "Mr. President, I think it's time to show something." The words landed heavy. The audience went completely quiet. Jimmy reached under his desk and pulled out a thick stack of papers. He held them up so the cameras could see them clearly. "These are hospital records and official timeline documents about Barron's birth," he said, still speaking in that even tone. "They show some serious inconsistencies with what you've been telling us tonight." Jimmy flipped to a specific page and started reading out loud, clear and slow so everyone could follow. On the date listed as Barron's birth, the medical logs indicate Melania was not present at the facility. Instead, records show she was documented in New York for a scheduled procedure that same week. Every word hit like a hammer. The audience leaned in, some people covering their mouths. Jimmy didn't yell or act dramatic. He just laid it out there, fact after fact, letting the papers do the talking. The documents looked official. Stamps, dates, signatures. The kind of stuff that's hard to brush off. Trump froze. For 3 full seconds he didn't move, didn't blink, didn't say a word. His face went tight, eyes locked on the papers in Jimmy's hands. Then the explosion came. "That's fake! Totally fake!" Trump shouted, his voice suddenly loud and sharp. He jabbed his finger toward Jimmy. "This is a setup, Jimmy. A total setup. You brought me here to ambush me with this garbage." His face turned red as he kept going, leaning forward aggressively. "You're just another fake news host with an agenda. You've always had it out for me and my family. This is disgusting." The attack was personal, and it came fast. Trump wasn't defending anymore. He was striking back hard. Then he did something nobody expected. He half stood from his chair and reached across the desk, trying to grab the stack of papers right out of Jimmy's hands. His arm shot out quick, fingers brushing the edge of the documents before Jimmy calmly pulled them back. It was the first real physical move of the night, raw, impulsive, and caught on every camera in the room. The audience gasped. A few people actually jumped in their seats. Trump stayed half out of his chair, breathing heavy, glaring at Jimmy with pure anger in his eyes. "Give me those. Those are lies," he barked again. Jimmy held the paper steady, not raising his voice at all. He simply looked at Trump and waited, letting the moment stretch out. Jimmy didn't even pause after Trump tried to grab the papers. He stayed calm, placed the documents back on the desk, and looked straight at the audience. "Mr. President, there's more," he said quietly. "We have a short video testimony from a former nanny who worked with your family. She's been verified and she's willing to speak on record." The big screen behind them lit up. A woman in her late 40s appeared, sitting in a plain room, looking nervous but determined. For the next 2 minutes, she spoke clearly. "I took care of Barron for over a year. Melania was rarely there during that time. The boy was brought to the house by someone else, and the story about the pregnancy never added up with what I saw every day." She gave specific dates, times, and small details that lined up perfectly with the hospital records Jimmy had just shown. When the clip ended, the screen went dark. Trump lost it completely. He shot up from his chair so fast it scraped loudly against the floor. "That's a lie about my family." His voice cracked right in the middle of the sentence, raw and vulnerable for a split second, like the words had been punched out of him. The whole studio heard it. The brief break in his usual armor. Then the rage took over. He pointed furiously at the screen, his face twisted with fury. "This is a deep state conspiracy. Jimmy, you're in on it. They're using you to attack me and my family. This is all rigged." He was pacing now, yelling at the top of his lungs, jabbing his finger toward Jimmy and then back at the screen. "Fake witnesses, fake videos. You people will do anything." His voice boomed through the studio, no longer controlled. The audience sat frozen, eyes wide, watching a man who usually dominated every room completely lose his grip. Jimmy waited until Trump stopped to catch his breath. Then he spoke again, still calm. "There's one more thing, Mr. President." He held up a sworn statement, signed and notarized, and pressed play on a short audio clip. The voice on the recording was unmistakably Trump's from a private call months earlier. In it, he said something that directly contradicted everything he had been claiming for the last 10 minutes. A casual remark about how things were arranged with Barron that didn't match the official story at all. The second the audio ended, Trump froze again. Then, without thinking, he blurted out, "That was taken out of context. I never said it like that about Melania being..." He stopped mid-sentence, realizing too late what had just come out of his mouth. The slip was huge. He had accidentally admitted the exact contradiction everyone had been waiting for. The studio erupted. Gasps turned into loud shouts and murmurs. Several people in the audience actually stood up in shock, voices rising in disbelief. "Oh my God!" someone whispered loudly enough for the mics to catch it. Trump's face went bright red. He slammed both hands on the desk and stared at Jimmy with pure fury, breathing hard. Trump completely lost control. His face turned deep red, veins popping on his forehead as he screamed across the desk at Jimmy. "You're a liar, a total fraud. You've always been a pathetic host with nothing better to do than attack me and my family." He jabbed his finger right toward Jimmy's face, so close that the host had to lean back slightly. Trump's voice dropped into a low, guttural growl, almost like an animal. "You set this whole thing up. You're disgusting, Jimmy. Disgusting. Fake news at its worst." He kept firing personal shots without stopping, his words coming out fast and vicious. The calm, confident man from the beginning of the show was gone. In his place was pure rage, spit flying as he shouted. The audience sat stunned, many leaning away from the stage like they were watching something dangerous unfold. Then came the final explosion. Trump grabbed the thick folder he had brought, the one full of his real facts, and hurled it hard onto the floor. Papers flew everywhere, scattering across the stage. Without thinking, he lunged forward, trying to charge straight at Jimmy's desk. His body moved fast, arms pumping, eyes locked on the host with fury. He made it halfway across the stage before he suddenly stopped at the edge, breathing, like he'd just run a marathon. For a split second, it looked like he might actually cross the line. The whole studio held its breath. Instead, Trump spun around, kicked his chair violently so it slid and crashed into the side of the set. "This is a witch hunt," he bellowed at the top of his lungs. "A total witch hunt. You people are corrupt." He stormed off the stage, still shouting, his footsteps heavy and angry as he disappeared backstage. The exit was louder and more chaotic than anyone had expected. No quiet walk away, but a full meltdown captured on every camera. The studio fell into dead silence. No one clapped, no one laughed. People just sat there, mouths open, trying to process what they had just witnessed. A few audience members slowly stood up, looking around in shock. Whispers started spreading through the crowd like wildfire. "Did that really just happen? Holy shit!" Jimmy stayed seated, completely composed. He looked out at the audience for a moment, then turned straight to the camera. In a quiet, steady voice, he said, "People deserve the truth, even when it's uncomfortable." He didn't smile big or crack a joke. Instead, a small, cold smile crept across his face as he held the camera's gaze. The screen froze on that image. Jimmy sitting there calm, while the chaos still echoed in everyone's ears. The question hung heavy in the air for millions watching at home. What the hell just happened? The screen stayed on Jimmy's cold smile for a few long seconds before the lights in the studio slowly dimmed. What had started as a simple comeback interview had turned into one of the most explosive nights in late-night television history. Trump had stormed off, papers scattered across the stage, his voice still echoing in everyone's ears. No one could look away. No one could forget what they had just seen. If you felt your heart racing while watching Trump lose control, the raw anger, the shocking slips, and those back-to-back bombshells, then you already know this story isn't over. Moments like this remind us how quickly things can flip when the truth comes out, even for the most powerful man in the room. Want to see more intense breakdowns, hidden details, and what really happens when big egos meet hard evidence? Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss the next viral moment. We're diving deep into the stories everyone's talking about. No filters, no sugarcoating, just the raw truth and all the drama that comes with it. If this episode shook you, drop a like, leave a comment telling us what shocked you the most. Was it the folder slam, the audio slip, or that final meltdown? Share this video with anyone who needs to see what went down tonight. The more people watching, the bigger these conversations get. Thanks for staying until the very end. This channel is built for people who love real reactions and unfiltered breakdowns. Subscribe now, because the next bombshell is already coming and you don't want to be the last one to know. See you in the next one.